dysfunction that is in Albany. I'm a small business owner. I'm a mother of 2 children. I have a daughter who's a New York City police officer. I have a son who served this country. And my husband also is in law enforcement. He's a police chief. So in my home, each and every day, when my family wakes up and has breakfast, and we talk about how and where we will live, how will we afford to live here, across the table is their mother, who's a New York State elected official. And many times I think to myself, the reason I go to Albany and fight and leave my wonderful family is because I'm sick and tired of the way New York State has operated. So here I have a small business. I still am the small business owner in the village of Green Lake, a small little village, who has never elected anyone to go to Albany. It was the largest accomplishment. A little village put themselves together, worked. The town of Warwick is where I am a committee woman. The Dubins, who are sitting in the audience, have been supporters. But not supporters just because they like Annie Rabbitt. They chose Annie Rabbitt because I'm a fighter. Not a fighter of a grandstander. Not a person who stands on the stairs in Albany and has a press conference every day, because I'm too busy. I'm too busy working for the people. Each and every day when I wake up, I still have excitement to go to work. I still really believe I'm going to make a difference. And the day that I think I can't make a difference, my term limit will be up. I will know that I shouldn't go to Albany. And you have to go to Albany with the hope. I'm on Facebook with many of you and Twitter. Chris Christie's interview on Friday. I was out of my skin with that interview. I just played it over and over because there I saw a leader who told a room full of people what he stands for. He didn't say what they wanted to hear. The hardest thing for anyone is to look into a room and think, does everyone like me? But he put it so clearly. We're elected to go fight for you. We're not supposed to be in the room and be the most popular person. We're supposed to be there with a message, and a clear message. I find myself extremely conservative. I don't even think I'm just a conservative. I am pro-life. I don't believe in gay marriage. I don't vote for marijuana to be medical marijuana for many reasons. Each and every time a bill comes up and we have to talk about it, debate it, and issue it, I always play the devil's advocate. How is this going to affect you in your home, in your business, and how you're going to be able to make a living in the state of New York? So when we have a piece of legislation that might sound good, and someone says it doesn't really affect anybody, it always affects somebody. It's another copy of a piece of paper. It's another quarter to pay for the copy. It's another person hired to do the job. A job in the state of New York is not just building government to be so big. That does nothing for this economy. What builds the economy is the backbone of the businesses who we make strong here. The incentives to bring businesses in, great idea. We have so many businesses right here, right now, that are ready to leave. Those are the businesses we got to make sure are they're opening their businesses, they're unlocking that door, and they're having customers no matter what business they're in. That is the most important thing we can do right now. We are seeing the worst financial crisis we have ever seen in the state of New York. I'm a 50-year-old woman. I can never remember thinking, how will I be able to retire here? Now, I know 50 is saying, I'm going to retire. What am I thinking about? I will be working until I'm 105 if I live that long, living here in the state of New York. Yeah. Just because of my children's college tuition, the taxes in which we pay. So how does Annie Rabbitt solve that problem for you? I take what you say serious. When I go to Albany, I don't vote hardly on any bill. Nancy, myself, Tom Kerwin, we're your voice in the assembly of reason. We're your people who say, slow it down, let's talk about it, let's fight this issue. In committee meetings, when we go to a committee meeting, that is the time we tie up the bill so it doesn't get on the floor of the New York State Assembly. And if it does get to the floor, you have people there in the minority party that are willing to stand up and fight for it. And there's a tool that we have in the New York State Assembly, it's called lay it aside. So when a bill comes to the floor and it's not ready to go, and it's going to damage many people, it's called lay it aside. And that bill can be laid aside. That bill can go away, and we can really work on a plan. This week we had a bill that came up regarding the MTA. Each legislator who voted no had hives. We knew how bad that piece of legislation was. But the MTA bill came up a few weeks ago and it was laid aside. And the reason it was laid aside is because Orange and Rockland County weren't even included in it. So you put it laid aside, you go to the sponsor and say, what about our county? Why are they not in there? That's your opportunity to be heard. Not on the front stairs, having a press conference, having everybody say you're a loudmouth, you're doing a great job. There are so many great legislators who are in their offices that you never even hear of because they're so busy doing the work of the people, and they don't forget it. To make press in Albany, you have to be in a scandal. It's the only way the media even will cover you, okay? Unless you are being indicted or you are in really a horrific scandal. Is there any way that Albany press thinks you're an elected official who's doing the job of the people? And that is pathetic that we have gotten to a society that you make the newspaper because you're in a scandal. And that's just unacceptable. Okay, my 3 minutes is up. I apologize. Okay, yes, Linda.
Before we had tea parties a few years ago, I started to ask about the school tax. This is an impossible situation in this state. The school board controls everything. We've gone to meetings. I'll give you an example of before we had the disaster. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. They pulled in Florida. They pulled the whole thing in December, right before Christmas, that they were going to get a bond. I forget how many $1 million. I said, oh my God, the roof must be falling down on one of the 2 schools. We only have 2 schools. That's all. Do you know what it was for? We went to the meeting. We were one of about 13 people. 2 of 13. It was for painting. Oh, the kids kicked the wall and there was a hole in the wall. I don't know why they let the kids do that. Repairing the sidewalk, minor repairs, and they said the state would match it. I bet they never did. But anyway, they promised the state would match it. It still was millions of dollars with an architect for no reason at all. There was no rebuilding. There was just repairs and regular maintenance. And they held a vote, and it was voted down. And what did they do? The same thing they do every time in Florida. They have a second vote. And of course, people didn't know to come out. I tried to let people know, and they ended up they had ice cream for the parents and children, and they got all the parents to come, and they voted affirmatively. There is very little you can do with the school board. They're elected, but it doesn't matter which person. They all stick together. They all come with their little trucks, so they're all working on the buildings or something. There's nothing we can do about that. And there were a couple of things, but they died. I never heard about them.
Okay. In Albany, there was a piece of legislation that a lot of people, there's so many details that Albany makes piles of messes so that you can't figure anything out. But what happens with a school board, when you sit on a school board, the person who trains the school board, you know who they are? They're retired superintendents. So we came up in the House of the House of People, and there's a piece of legislation now saying that superintendents, retired superintendents, cannot be the trainees of the school board. And we passed it. When I first got elected, every Friday, Saturday, we would go to school boards, we'd go to, PTA meetings, we'd hear from people. We never said, we would say, what's your role? What is your job? I bought a law book of the school board, and each time I talk to someone on a school board, I go to the page and say, tell me your description of what your job is. What are your awareness of education and the money? So now it's not like we guess what your job is. You actually have to train yourself to figure out what their job is, and there are details for it. And now that I know about this law book, You know, in Albany, you carry a pocketbook, you wanna dress nice, you wanna look like business. You could carry a suitcase with wheels to bring the meeting because there's so much details and the devil in the details and the paperwork. So now that I've discovered this new tool, each and every time I have a meeting, I get a better handle on seeing what's going on. But again, a piece of legislation that says that a superintendent should not train the school board members, that is a very good piece of legislation. Will that make front cover? Will it help? It's going to help. So it might not be the mountain, but it is the tool that we need to control many of these situations.
What about the